This house is one of 32 houses here in the St. Clair neighborhood. An area once known for dilapidated and foreclosed homes is now getting an uplift. It was at this location yesterday evening where an 80-year-old lady was tied up and robbed. The robber got away with her car and wallet and headed to a nearby bank. The Indy Parks Pools is offering a free training session now through Friday to teach kids how to play it safe while making a splash this summer. Governor spokesperson Jane Jokowski says the governor has no plans on meeting with any of these protesters seen here today. He wants everyone to give the new board members a chance. Indianapolis Motor Speedway officials say they saw an increase in fans here yesterday at the Speedway, but those fans say otherwise. A controversy is brewing at the State House today over the whereabouts of millions of dollars. I'm Randy Gore, and we'll have that story coming up next. From water bottles, to water baths, to water mixed with added electrolytes, livestock owners at the Bartholomew County 4-H Fair going the extra mile to keep their pets out of the heat, which they say is worse this year than in years past.
We've had some extremely hot days comparatively, which changes a little bit of things for us with having so many animals.
This week, with the heat index making it feel like triple digits, more fans have been added along with more tents to keep the pigs, cows, and sheep in the shade as much as possible. And from the shade to the shelter, someone reported this story to Indianapolis Animal Control Monday, saying it was wandering around an East Side park dehydrated and in need of care. It's more than one of a dozen calls Animal Control went out on yesterday as part of their ramped-up efforts this week to respond to heat-related concerns.
Any call that we would get on a care and treatment case where somebody's not properly taking care of their animal with the heat, we're going to bump that up to a top priority. So we're going to make sure we get out there right away.
No matter what kind of four-legged friend you have, Animal Control's Adam Garrett says it's critical to remember that they all rely on their owners to keep them happy, healthy, and hydrated. Randa Gore, 6 News. These men, women, and children are pedaling to support families of fallen officers here in Indiana. It's the 7th annual COPS, or Concerns of Police Survivors, fundraising bicycle ride around the state.
It's quite an honor to me and quite meaningful.
At the front of the pack this year is Spencer Moore, a retired Indianapolis police officer and father of the late officer David Moore, who was gunned down in January. Spencer Moore was injured during the COPS ride in 2006 when a vehicle hit the pack of cyclists, killing Indiana State Police Lieutenant Gary Dudley and former Lake County Police Chief Gary Martin. For years, Moore has been trying to raise awareness for the COPS ride.
I think it's something the community, again, will be able to see and share in, and remembering these officers that have died in the line of duty for them, in a sense.
One of the youngest cyclists this year is pedaling for Officer David Moore for the 2nd time this summer.
I rode from Pittsburgh to Washington, D.C.
A.V. Forrest received a special award when the cyclist stopped at the North District where Officer Moore worked. This year's ride's also paying tribute to Greenfield police officer Will Phillips, who was killed by a hit-and-run driver during the training ride in September.
We realize how important these folks really are to our law enforcement community and what they mean to each one of us when they come out and put their arms around us and hold us and take care of us.
A fellow Greenfield officer took part in the ride to represent the department.
Line of duty last year, and I don't so much look at it as I'm writing in his memory, but more or less I'm just writing in his honor.
It kind of just started and it was just like crack, crack, crack.
Marilyn Brownie and a handful of other people were inside their church, the Greater New Jerusalem Temple, just minutes before it came crashing down.
And then all of a sudden it just fell in. Boom.
Members were moving things out because they knew the roof had become unstable.
We had taken our services to the lower level because we knew that it was just unsafe upstairs.
So this was a problem they knew was coming. In the last week, some of the roof had collapsed into the interior of the building.
Pastor Herman Davis says the church first noticed a problem with the roof back in October, when a small section of the roof broke off and fell inside the church during one of their services. Davis said they tried to fix the problem, but the insurance company wasn't cooperating. He says they battled back and forth until the insurance company finally decided to drop them. And since the church hasn't been able to find another company to insure them, they were planning on making repairs themselves in just a couple of weeks. Contractor Louis Voss inspected it just before it fell down.
I start to see the cracklings in the walls, the separation in the walls.
Voss then warned everyone to get out. He says he believes the roof came down because the last people who worked on it didn't do a good job.
Those guys cheating because he built the roof over the other roof, so what happens? A lot of weight.
It could have happened with us in there. I'm grateful and thankful to God for no one being in there and no one getting hurt.
Randa Gore, 6 News. You better think twice the next time you pick up your phone behind the wheel. Starting Friday, if you're caught texting while driving, you could face up to a $500 fine.
You see it every single day almost, somebody with their phone in their hand.
Well, starting Friday, texting behind the wheel is against the law.
Texting law is going to be a primary offense, just like a speeding offense, running red light, running stop sign. If officer witnesses or believes they witnessed someone texting on their phone, they are allowed to stop them.
However, the law only talks about texting and emailing, but it does not mention any of the other numerous things you can do with your phone, from surfing the web to checking out Facebook or even placing a call.
The enforcement of it is going to be difficult.
And if an officer pulls you over claiming they saw you texting, you can always say you were just using your phone for something else, and there's no way they can prove you weren't.
According to the law, the officer will not be able to confiscate the phone.
After talking with police, we asked drivers what they think about the new law.
I think it's fantastic. I don't think there's any reason to have to text and drive.
Eventually they'll have to broaden it, to cover other things like that if it wants to be effective overall.
Some people even admitted to driving while texting.
Occasionally I do. It's kind of a hard habit to break after you've been doing it for so long.
However, just to be safe, police are asking you to just focus on the road and put down the phone.
Once you're looking down, it's taking you away from where you need to be looking when you're driving is up ahead of you. Pull to the side of the road, look up your directions, send your messages, and then get back on the road.
Randa Gore, 6 News. I'm Randa Gore, and here's what we're working on for 6 News and the IndyChannel.com. The NFL lockout's over, and now it's time to get ready for some football. It starts soon, with the Colts reporting to training camp this weekend, and that also means the Colts complex is open today to players. After nearly 4 months of back and forth between the players and team owners, both sides agreed to a deal to end the NFL lockout. This is a 10-year deal with a $120 million cap. Both sides admit they gave up a few items in the negotiations, but agree it's a fair agreement. The Colts are scheduled to officially begin training camp Monday in Anderson. This is a big sigh of relief after months of uncertainty over whether the NFL lockout would threaten the camp. Mayor Chris Ackerman says he's remained optimistic that this camp would kick off on schedule, and the city of Anderson and Anderson University never stopped planning for it. More than $6 million were pumped into the economy in the 18 days last year. The city's again showing its Colts pride and rolling out the welcome mat.
With this shot of, $6.4 million from last year, and who knows what it might be this year, that's a tremendous boost to our both our morale and our general fund.
About 90,000 people attended Colts camp in Anderson last year. As the NFL season moves forward, so does the countdown to the Super Bowl here in Indianapolis. The game will be February 5th. Downtown businesses tell us they're relieved the lockout's finally over because the Colts are vital to their bottom line. Hotels, restaurants, and stores are busy during the regular season games, and this year they're looking forward to that Super Bowl bonus.
Everybody has been really looking forward to what will be an event like we've never had before. We've never had this many people come to Indianapolis before, 150,000 people. It's going to be a spectacular opportunity for the restaurants and the hotels.
Some businesses say they had promotions they were working on, but they couldn't go ahead with them because the season was in limbo. Now that things are right back on track, they can get started and ready for the season. State officials tell 6 News they have launched an investigation into working conditions at a Columbus East plant after a worker died there last week. North Vernon resident Charles Hulse collapsed and died at the CE Systems in Columbus Thursday. The coroner says he died of a heart attack complicated by extreme heat. Indiana OSHA officials say the workplace fatalities are supposed to be reported within 8 hours, but they say Hulse's death wasn't reported until Monday. The workers' families say they knew the work was hot, but not hot enough to die. The state says if the death was heat-related, it was preventable.
They could have gave him breaks. They could have asked him to go home because of the heat, because it gets probably about 180 degrees in there.
Heat illness is 100% preventable, and essentially it starts with a 3-step process. That's water, rest, and shade.
Iron casting takes place inside the plant. The company did not return calls last night. Hulse's funeral is set for today in North Vernon. 2 Indianapolis women were found dead over the weekend, and officials say they died of extreme heat. That's according to an autopsy. And neighbors found Priscilla Gill and her stepdaughter Dorothy Gill on Saturday. A neighbor told 6 News they did not have a working air conditioner and both women had health issues. The National Transportation Safety Board will hold a public board meeting today to talk about a rollover crash in Indianapolis. They'll discuss the final reports of the board's investigation into a fiery crash on October of 2009 on the on-ramp from I-69 South to 469 South. The driver lost control of his truck filled with liquid petroleum gas, and it rolled over and exploded. The 5-member board will vote to adopt findings of the report, probable cause, and safety recommendations from the final report. Today, hundreds of Hoosier bicycle riders will start their second day of the Cops Ride. They began their trek across the state yesterday in downtown Indianapolis. Today, they'll ride from Richmond to Bluffton. Organizers hope the 13-day ride will raise $30,000 for survivors of officers who have died, including Metro Police Officer David Moore and Greenfield Officer Will Phillips. That's all for the news this hour. The latest from Storm Team 6 is coming up right here on HTSN.